rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. Sorry, I'm getting rid of something here that I do not want to bother me during the time that we are. Yeah, the intro is a little off. So before I get going on this, I have a couple of things. First of all, number one, I was watching while you all were coming in. Do you guys seriously, and I'm talking to, of course, my Whiskey Warrior P1s, especially the ones over on Rumble, because Rumble allows me to open up the chat early. And when it does, it lets, obviously everybody come in and start chatting ahead of time. And so that's really kind of cool. But I just have this question. Do you guys seriously wait for the room to open up so you can click on it and get in? I mean, really? Wow. If you guys really do that, oh my gosh, I am so touched. I am so touched because that you guys don't. Yeah, I can't even describe it. I can't even explain it. I mean, just being able to sit here and see that there are people not only who are interested in what I have to say, but keep coming back over and over and over and apparently getting in first into the chat, being the first one to pop into the chat is a very big deal. And of course that makes me feel absolutely, well, you can't imagine. Anyway, all right. So there was that. I was going to say something else too, and that kind of distracted me. You guys got me totally discombobulated with that because again, it's one of those surprises. One of those surprises. And apparently I am having a personality disorder problem tonight, and the reason why I say that is because over on Rumble I have four separate personalities. And by that, I mean 4 accounts. So, yeah. Anyway, all right. I know that tonight's topic is no real surprise to anybody that's been around because I've talked about it a lot, but, I just got to go through it because tomorrow is going to be almost like Christmas for me. See, I'm a bit strange. Not only do I have 4 personalities that I'm playing with on Rumble, but I also am one of those people who love to see essentially history-making cases hit the Supreme Court. Because what a lot of people don't seem to understand is up until the point that something goes to the Supreme Court and gets a definitive answer. And by definitive, I mean definitive only because it'll settle things until the next time something comes up at the Supreme Court level to make the decision on constitutional items. Tomorrow's is one of the big ones. See, the first one that was really, really big, obviously, was the overturning of Roe v. Wade by the Dobbs decision. Now, I maintain throughout that entire process that people need to read and understand the Constitution, and they need to understand that there are things that the federal government absolutely is not supposed to be, constitutionally, not supposed to be involved in. One of those things is the issue of health care. See, there's this little thing at the bottom of the Bill of Rights, number 10, which is probably one of my top favorite, definitely one of my top 5s of the Bill of Rights, but it basically says that anything not defined in the Constitution nor prohibited by the Constitution to the states belongs to the states and ultimately to the people. And so when you see things like the issue of abortion show up in front of SCOTUS, see, Roe v. Wade never should have even happened. That should have immediately been like, nope, this is a 10th Amendment issue. The federal government doesn't need to be involved. It goes back to the states, which is where it was in the beginning. But they decided to, the SCOTUS decided to not do that, even though they absolutely should have. I mean, even Ruth Bader Ginsburg, you know, the darling of the left, was like, hey, yeah, I don't really agree with that decision. And so now we have another history-making decision here in front of us. And that is the definition of birthright citizenship. And realistically, it's actually the definition of citizenship altogether. And there are so many people on the left. I mean, I battle them almost, ever since this issue came up. Battle with them on social media. I mean, I've been told that I'm wrong. I've been told that I don't know what I'm talking about. That I've been told that I'm not a constitutional scholar. I'm not a lawyer. All these things. Well, I'm going to lay out tonight. I'm going to lay out where I think this needs to go based on historical context and the actual debates that happened for the 14th Amendment, which was the second of 3 amendments that happened right after the Civil War. So we're going to take a close look at that. Plus, I also have a couple of other things, like, for an example, or a couple other stories. One dealing with the Charlie Kirk alleged assassin's trial. And also Eric Swalwell is sweating a little bit because the FBI, it might be releasing some negative things about him. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into all of that and more tonight. But first, let's get a start off by Definitely Not Karen. Definitely Not Karen is standing right over there in the green room, getting ready to go ahead and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you are of mine, please stand, remove your hat if you're wearing one like me. Place your hand over your heart and follow along with Definitely Not Karen as he recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. And I thank you, Definitely Not Karen, for that wonderful rendition of the pledge. If you would like to hear your rendition of the pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself reciting or performing the pledge in your style. Take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file, attach it to an email, and send it off to me. Send it to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. And I will get you into the rotation. I have 23 of these. I'd like to get 26 by the end of 2026. So if you haven't sent yours in yet, I would appreciate it. And if you create a file that's a little too big to email, that's okay. Use the online resources such as Google Drive, Box, or Dropbox. Place the file up there, create a link that will allow me to go and download it, and then email that link to me. If you use your phone to record your Pledge of Allegiance, you can use the share option. That's the S-H-A-R-E option in your phone to send that over to me at fans at AmericanPerspective.online. All right. Now let's head on to tonight's headline sponsor, which ironically, because we're talking about constitutional issues tonight, is the Institute on the Constitution. The Institute on the Constitution was established in 2004 as a 501c3 nonprofit with one singular mission, and that is to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education from a biblical world view. Now, how do they suggest that we restore the republic? Well, it's pretty simple. First, you must pray. Never forget to pray for your country again. And believe me, right now, we definitely need that prayer. Second of all, you need to study. Well, what are you going to study? It's pretty simple. You're going to study things like the Constitution. And you can start by taking their U.S. Constitution course. It is free. Here's how you sign up for it right here above my head in the image. You can put in your first name, last name, and your email, and they will email you the lessons one by one. It's 12 lessons. And you get them sent to your email inbox automatically every single week. And they're short lessons. They're 15 to 20 minutes long, and you can peruse them at your own leisure. Go through all 12. It's a 100% free online course, nationally recognized. And then after that, I would suggest that you go and check out their online or their in-person courses all over the United States. They've got U.S. Constitution courses, Truth of America's Founding, Your Heritage and Mine. They've got they have state constitution courses as well. And so you can go and check all of those out. And then you have to act. Well, acting by learning, that's the first step. But you can also act by not only taking a class, maybe becoming a member, but also becoming an instructor for the U.S. Constitution, for the Institute on the Constitution. Become an instructor. You can go and check out these two videos. The one on the left here is how to become an IOTC instructor. The second one is 5 tips for a successful class. Then you can go and grab your instructor kit. It's got all kinds of information. Oh, you know what? I haven't even told you where to go. You need to go to theamericanview.com. That's theamericanview.com to pick all of these up. Seriously. Theamericanview.com is where you need to go to get all of these wonderful things. And then, of course, once you looked up the instructor kit and things like that, head on over to the shop and pick up the rest of this. My personal favorite in the shop is the Legacy Library. The Legacy Library. It's a leather library. I love leather. Anyway, when you head on over there, you can look up their leather U.S. Constitution book, which I have right here in my hot little hands. This is the sexy rounded corner book. That's right. Each of these rounded corner Saddleback leather books will hit a liberal like Trump's discombobulator hit the Venezuelans. So yeah, right here is the Institute on the Constitution's copy. It's a Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution. 1/8 of an inch of Saddleback leather wrapped around pages that are water and tear resistant. No cheap glue here, folks. This is stitched all the way through. The binding and the pages contained within. It's got a 100-year warranty against materials and manufacturing defects, such that you can send it back to the manufacturer and they will either fix it or replace it for free. It is buddy tested, buddy approved, Billy tasted, Billy approved. My youngest whiskey warrior has confirmed the information contained within will help you to study for and achieve the civics badge in scouting, as well as potentially your civics exam. And hey, guess what? That naturalization test, this has got a lot of information on it right here. I'm telling you right here. Go to theamericanview.com, go to the shop, go to the Legacy Library, and pick out your Leather Constitution book. And check out the rest of the Institute on the Constitution's offerings. And I thank them for being a sponsor of the show. So, shout out to, let me see, is it here? Is it here? Is it here? Oh. Wow, it didn't show up. Uh-oh. Ow. Shout out to Ms. T. Ms. T gifted a bunch of memberships to everybody, and so now the chat is showing up pink. Pink is the indicator behind the usernames that shows up, and yeah, so there you go. Oh, according to G, the stitching is so powerful that it drinks shots of whiskey on Wednesdays and Saturdays. But only with stones. Only with stones. Anyway, all right. So Eric Swalwell is crapping in his pants. Yes, Eric Swalwell. You know, Fartswell. You know, the banger of Fang Fanger. Yeah, anyway. He apparently is pissed because I guess Trump's FBI is reportedly going to be releasing files on his alleged Fang Fang interlude. Now, Swalwell, of course, is saying that he's being targeted because he's he's the Democratic frontrunner in the gubernatorial polls over in California. Except there's only one problem there, Mr. Fartswell. You're running in third. The two Republicans are reportedly running ahead of you. So, yeah. Anyway, yeah, he's a little bit pissed because in Swalwell's 2014 re-election campaign, he apparently had gotten fundraising help from a woman named Christine Fang, who is believed to have ties with Chinese intelligence. She also apparently placed an intern in his office. Do you remember when, what was that one lady? Oh, I can see her face, but I can't think of it. Where she had a Chinese spy in her office as well. Yeah. So, yeah, there you go. Anyway, Swalwell said, quote, "The reason Trump is so desperately trying to stop me is not because I'm running for governor of California, but because now I'm the favorite." No. Anyway, Swalwell has denied any wrongdoing and accuses Republicans of exaggerating the scandal in order to damage his political career. No, dude, you hanging out with Chinese spies and farting in public damages your political career. Anyway, on Saturday, both the Washington Post and the New York Times reported that the FBI was seeking to release files related to the Fang investigation. So, yeah. Yeah, we're going to see this. Now, a spokesperson for the FBI, of course, has denied any political motivation in their file releases, saying, quote, this FBI, being the most transparent in history, prepares documents for numerous different reasons, including for release to different agencies and departments, to further review investigations that may have been opened under previous administrations. So, there you go. Yep. Yeah. By the way, Christine Fang has also been connected to other California Democrats, including Representative Ro Khanna, Judy Chu, and former Representative Mike Honda. Well, there you go. Anyway. Oh, man. You know, I kind of wish, I'll be honest with you, I kind of wish that that lawsuit showing that he was not actually living in California would have, like, kicked him out. But the judge apparently was like, yeah, no, I'm not even going to listen to it. Anyway. All right. Well, Trump is about ready to, like, throw this Congress under the bus. And he is, he's threatened now to disrupt their spring break. Now, obviously, Congress is on a break right now. They are on a break throughout this week and past Easter, which is this Sunday. They don't return until April 13th. And he's pissed because he is done with all of this. He wants Congress to pass the DHS bill. He wants to end the DHS shutdown. And so he is planning on invoking what is called a rare special session. Now, a lot of people are like, wait a minute, lefties or who don't know the Constitution will be like, hey, wait a minute, how can he do that? He's the president. He's not a king. Yeah, we just went through that this last weekend. Well, guess what, lefties? If you open your handy dandy leather-bound U.S. Constitution, which I refer to all the time, and look under the article that covers the president, which is Article 2. Article 2, Section 3. It says that the president may, on extraordinary occasions, convene both houses or either of them, and in the case of disagreement with them with respect to the time of adjournment, he may also adjourn them to such time as he shall think proper. And there you go. So he can, under special circumstances, bring Congress back. Oh, I would love to see that happen. Oh, I've been accused of being a liar oftentimes because I've made the comment that this president is the most constitutional president that we have had in a very long time. And I got to say, he is. He absolutely is. He absolutely is. If he does this and wins some of the cases that are up on the Supreme Court, I got to tell you, we'll get to that being the most constitutional president here in just a minute with the Birthright citizenship case. But before I do that, I want to tell you, you got to be very careful nowadays when you're dealing with outlets, news outlets. And you have to be very careful in terms of what the article's headline says versus what is actually in the article. Now, the thing about this is, and why I'm bringing this up, is because of the fact, how often have you read an article or read a headline and been like, hey, oh my gosh, whatever, something happened. Oh my gosh, you get into the article and it's not quite what the headline says. See, a lot of people seem to think that the headline has to be, factual or accurate. And while it does have to be close to accurate, the reality of it is the headlines are designed to draw your attention and hopefully draw your attention to the paper so that they can sell advertisement. I mean, that's literally what this is. They don't make any money, unless, of course, you buy the paper. They don't make any money off of you if all you're doing is reading the headlines and not picking up the paper and reading the advertisements and everything else, because that's how they make their money. They're doing nothing more than what I do on this program. I give you all this content, but I read ads. Well, apparently the Daily Mail, which I've used, I'm going to admit, I've used articles from the Daily Mail on this program, only because the article itself and the has a certain point or a certain thing that I think that you guys should be aware of. Well, the Daily Mail apparently published a headline yesterday because of the trial regarding the assassination of Charlie Kirk. The Charlie Kirk assassination or alleged assassinator, or assassin, I should say, not assassin. I'm just trumbling all over these English words. Anyway, the Daily Mail was in the trial. And in the trial, the defense brought up the fact, or brought up the report by the ATF, that the ATF itself could not match the rifle and the bullet together. Now, here's the problem. The report, and see, I just went ahead and did this. I just messed with you on this. The actual report from the ATF said that the findings were inconclusive. It was inconclusive, meaning that they couldn't definitively match the bullet to the rifle. And here's the problem that a lot of people don't seem to understand with all of this, is that if a bullet gets mangled on impact, say in this particular case, and this is going to sound really kind of graphic, but it passed through Charlie and hit the wall behind him, which is likely what happened. And once it hit the wall, it was mangled upon impact. There isn't enough evidence to necessarily tie the bullet directly to the rifle that they recovered. And that's kind of what the ATF is basically saying. Like, well, you know, the bullet itself may not necessarily match the rifle, but there's plenty of other physical evidence that they have picked up. That they have picked up on this guy, that he had the rifle. The rifle was present at the scene. He himself admitted in text messages to his boyfriend about what he had done. He alluded to the fact that he had done the item. And so anyway, what it was the defense attorneys basically filed a motion yesterday, filed a court motion arguing that since the ATF was unable to identify the bullet recovered at the autopsy to the rifle allegedly tied to Mr. Robinson, that he wanted the court to recognize that the round that killed Kirk might not actually match the gun that Robinson allegedly used. Yeah. Well, again, for those of you that are not part of the legal system, this is nothing but legal wrangling in an attempt to try and get rid of some of the evidence thrown out. So, yeah. Now, keep in mind, the defense also pointed out that it was handed about 20,000 electronic files, audio recordings, videos, documents, and asked the court to push the preliminary hearing back about 6 months to allow the defense enough time to review the material. Now, the thing about it is the defense gets to look at everything that the prosecution has so that they can mount a proper defense. That's the way our legal system works. The prosecution is allowed no surprises. So the idea that they're attempting to mitigate the damage kind of indicates that, well, the case against him might be pretty big. Now, keep in mind, there is plenty of other evidence that the prosecution is relying on. Okay. They have the bolt-action 30-06 rifle that is tied to Robinson, found near the scene. They have the spent round, which was a 30-06 spent round. They have the unfired cartridges within the weapon that match the round. And so, yeah. let's just say that there's a lot of other evidence. A lot of other evidence that is being done. Now, the sad part about all of this, though, is that Candace Owens immediately jumped on this and said, see, I was right, even though she's never demonstrated any evidence of what she was claiming. Yeah. So, yeah. Just be prepared. There will be a little bit of that running around. There will be a little bit of that running around in all of that stuff. So, anyway. All right. Well, before I get to my headline topic here, I'm going to talk to you about, let's see. Go ahead and do this one. All right. So here is a little inside scoop that many creators are talking about behind the scenes. It's actually one of the reasons why I'm using Rumble. They made a way to super chat creators directly so that we get paid immediately without any of the fees. Now, YouTube and Twitch take up to 50% of the fees when you tip creators, and this method takes 0. Okay, that's right. The platform, Rumble, takes 0 fees. I get to keep nearly 100% of what you send me. Now, the advantage of this is, of course, you can super chat with Bitcoin, Tether USD, or even Tether Gold stablecoin. Okay? The tip will show up directly in the Rumble chat, which, of course, I always do my best to try and read. All you need to do is download what's called the Rumble Wallet on the App Store and send tips off to your favorite creators, like myself. You can also head off to Wallet, W-A-L-L-E-T, wallet.rumble.com. That's wallet.rumble.com to gain more information about this spectacular way to tip your creators and get yourself out of the fee game that some of the other platforms have. So go to wallet.rumble.com or download the app directly from the app stores and find out about Rumble Wallet. Seriously, what an amazing way to get rid of the middleman and help the creator economy. And I got to give a shout out to Rumble for making this disruptive technology. Once again, go to wallet.rumble.com to find out more and make sure that you download Rumble Wallet directly from the app stores today. All right. So before I get into the Birthright Citizenship case, the Supreme Court struck down a Colorado law today, and this one is right, in my view. Now, there's been a lot of controversy about things called conversion therapy when it is in regards to the LGBTQ plus minus divided by sign ampersand world. Okay. Well, the Supreme Court struck down a Colorado law that was put into place banning conversion therapy. The court ruled in favor of a Christian therapist, which is, by doing so, rejected the state law that prohibited mental health professionals from trying to change the sexual orientation or gender identity of LGBTQ plus minus divided by sign minors. This was an 8-1 decision, folks, and it impacts more than 20 other states that have similar laws against conversion therapy. So the court's majority decision said that the law, as applied to talk therapy, impermissibly interferes with free speech. Justice Gorsuch, who wrote the court's opinion, said, Colorado may regard its policy as essential to public health and safety, but the First Amendment stands as a shield against any effort to enforce orthodoxy in thought or speech in this country. Now, who wants to guess who was the lone dissenter in this 8-1 decision? Anyone? Anyone? Bueller? The lone dissenter in this whole thing. Somebody, give me a guess. Somebody in the chat somewhere, give me a guess. I got the chats up all over. Somebody give me the dissenter, please. Who do you think the dissenter is? Well, yeah, it was none other than Ketanji Brown Jackson. Nope, Ketanji Brown Jackson. She decided to go against it. Oh, yeah, reading. Now, she read a lengthy summary of her opposition from the bench. Now, you know, it's pretty bad when even your partners in crime, your two other activists, not jurists on the court, pushed away your dissent. This should have been a 9-0. This should have been a slam dunk 9-0. Seriously. But KBJ, she she. Now, the Colorado law, which was adopted in 2019, prohibits any practice or treatment that tries to change a minor's gender expressions or to eliminate or reduce sexual or romantic attraction or feelings toward individuals of the same sex. Now, the law itself had never been enforced, but it did include fines of up to $5,000 for each violation and a possible suspension or revocation of the counselor's license. The law included an exemption for those who engaged in the practice of religious ministry. Now, the person who sued Colorado over the law back in 2022, she is a Christian, and she argued that it prevented her from working with young patients who want to live a life consistent with their faith. So in her court filing, she stated that she was not seeking to necessarily cure clients of same-sex attractions or to change their sexual orientation, but to actually help them with their own stated goals, which sometimes included seeking to reduce or eliminating unwanted sexual attractions. Well, a win again for freedom, religious liberty, faith, and, of course, the First Amendment. All right, folks. Well, tomorrow is the oral arguments in front of SCOTUS with regards to birthright citizenship. Now, we all know what we've been told in school. We all know that everybody that's been in school since, say the 90s or whatever, that everybody seems to believe that just because you're born within the borders of the United States, you are automatically a United States citizen. And I have been taking the historical viewpoint and saying, no, that is not the case. And honestly, in my view, it's also no different than the Constitution. The Constitution itself does not apply to everyone. That it only applies in full to United States citizens. Now, here's the thing. Tomorrow, we're going to listen to the oral arguments, and just like every other case, in order to get an idea as to where the justices might be sitting, you're going to have to listen very carefully to the questions that they ask, how they ask them, and the answers that are being given. Now, the thing about it is that this is probably going to be a 5-4, 6-3, more than likely. Okay? And it will come down to the more conservative justices, more than likely, okay, the conservative justices on the court, and whether or not they, as a group, can actually agree as originalists and as the administration seems to hope. Now, here's the thing. The wild cards, of course, in all of this, which are typical, are going to be Chief Justice John Roberts, who is a dickhead and likes to narrow decisions so close. He doesn't want a blanket decision. He just wants a very narrow, specific decision. And that's what he does all the time. We also have Brett Kavanaugh, who seems to be a little wishy-washy in certain constitutional matters. And, of course, Amy Coney Barrett, who has flipped on other cases in her interpretations of things. Now, those three in particular are going to be ones to watch if you happen to listen to this thing. But let me go ahead and kind of tell you a little bit of where the government is coming from. First of all, you have the executive order. Now, the executive order pretty much outlines Trump's interpretation, which I personally believe is in line with the historical sense and texts of the words. So in this particular case, you can expect Solicitor General John Sauer to maintain that the Citizenship Clause of the 14th Amendment assures the rights of citizenships to individuals who are completely subject to the United States political jurisdiction. In other words, they must owe direct and immediate allegiance to the United States of America. Now, don't be surprised if he brings up the idea that, hey, anybody here on temporary status does not fit that framework. And anybody, especially anybody here illegally, definitely does not fit that because they broke U.S. law in order to be here illegally. Okay? And he is likely going to say, hey, they broke U.S. law. They're in defiance of it. This is inconsistent with establishing the requisite allegiance to America, and therefore illegal aliens cannot just drop babies here and expect them to be United States citizens. Keep in mind, there have been instances, especially here recently, where we have seen people who have come here, illegal aliens or aliens who have come here, dropped a baby, gone back to their home country. In fact, one of the leaders of a very, very powerful cartel in Mexico is just that. The individual in charge now, reportedly in charge of that cartel, is a baby who was dropped in California and then taken back by his mother, who was a Mexican citizen, back to Mexico. And now he is in charge of that illegal organization. Now, I'm going to point this out, and I need you guys to understand this. What I'm about to do is go to the congressional record. And by the congressional record, I actually mean the congressional globe. Because before the congressional record was kept in the congressional record, it was a paper that was put together called the Congressional Globe. The Congressional Globe, on May 30th, 1866, that's the issue, May 30th, 1866, has the Senate debates on this phrasing, within the 14th Amendment, as put forth by the sponsor, Senator Howard. Here is the part where it starts. They are reading the first part of the amendment. All persons born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the states wherein they reside. Now, when he introduced that, he says, and I quote, I do not propose to say anything on the subject except that the question of citizenship has already been fully discussed in this body so as not to need any further elucidation, in my opinion. This amendment, which I have offered, is simply declaratory of what I regard as the law of the land already, that every person born within the limits of the United States and subject to their jurisdiction is, by virtue of natural law and national law, a citizen of the United States. Now, here's where it comes into play. He says, and I quote, "This will not, of course, include persons born in the United States who are foreigners, aliens, who belong to the families of ambassadors or foreign ministers accredited to the government of the United States, but will include every other class of persons." Now, he believes that it settles the great question of citizenship and removes all doubt as to what persons are or are not citizens of the United States. Now, here's the thing. No, it didn't. No, it did not. Because of the fact that we're still arguing it. Now, the question is not whether or not being born within the borders of the United States, whether or not that can confer citizenship. That is only one part. It's the secondary part, the subject to the jurisdiction thereof, that has been a matter of contention for a very long time. And whenever you have a matter of contention, you have to go back to the historical value, the historical record, in this case, the Congressional Globe of 1866, May 30th, in order to determine what it is that the senators of the era and of the time actually meant. Now, that is the beginning. Here is another piece, as soon as I can get it switched. Here is another piece that gives us an indication as to what might be going on here. So they're in conversations and in the conversations about things, and they come up to the whole idea of, well, what about the Indian population? Because up until 1942, up until at least the 1900s, the early 1900s, the Indian population, otherwise known by the leftists as the Native Americans here in the United States, were not recognized as citizens. The reason why is fairly clear. They put out there that they cannot be citizens of both the tribe and American citizens. And this argument went back and forth because they were talking about Indians being taxed, Indians not taxed, all of the questions and information, because, keep in mind, this was all based off the Civil Rights Act of 1866, which said anyone who is not subject to a foreign power, excluding Indians not taxed. So the senators wanted to include that phraseology into the 14th Amendment. And so there was a lot of discussion with regards to the Indians, with regards to gypsies, with regards to the Chinese that were in California. And essentially what it came down to was essentially the idea, the question, with regards to the phraseology of subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Now, there was a senator who was discussing this, and he mentions that I concur entirely with the honorable senator of Illinois in holding that the word jurisdiction, as here employed, ought to be construed so as to imply, quote, a full and complete jurisdiction on the part of the United States, coextensive in all respects with the constitutional power of the United States, whether exercised by Congress, by the executive, or by the judicial department. That is to say, the same jurisdiction in extent and quality as applies to every citizen of the United States now. And he continues and says, certainly, gentlemen, cannot contend that an Indian belonging to a tribe, although born within the limits of a state, is subject to this full and complete jurisdiction. And he continues and says that question has long since been adjudicated so far as the usage of the government is concerned. The government of the United States has always regarded and treated the Indian tribes within our limits as foreign powers, so far as the treaty-making power is concerned. And he continues with some other thing. Folks, this is the definition. This is the whole point of the subject to the jurisdiction thereof. You need to have full and 100% national as well as natural connection to the United States. And by national, that includes a political connection to the United States. This is what is required in order to be a citizen of the United States. You cannot just be dropped here as a baby and just automatically become a citizen. No, that's just one part of this qualifying piece. Now, there is another conversation that happens a little bit later, and I'm going in the order of how they were arguing this. So here, another senator points out that he is supportive of the idea that the phraseology subject to the jurisdiction thereof means 100% full and complete jurisdiction. And he explains this simply by saying this. In one sense, all persons born within the geographical limits of the United States are subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, but they are not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States in every sense. And here's the example. Take the child of an ambassador. In one sense, that child born in the United States is subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, because if that child commits the crime of murder or commits any other crime against the laws of the country, to a certain extent, he is subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, but not in every respect. And so with these Indians, again, they're going back to the Indians. He says all persons living within a judicial district may be said, in one sense, to be subject to the jurisdiction of the court in that district, but they are not in every sense subject to the jurisdiction of the court unless they are brought by proper process within the reach of the power of the court. He says, I understand the words here, subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, to mean fully and completely subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. If there was any doubt as to the meaning of these words, I think that doubt is entirely removed and explained by the words in the subsequent section. And believing that in any court or by any intelligent person, these two sections would be construed to not include Indians not taxed. I do not think the amendment, because again, excluding Indians not taxed, this is kind of what they're talking about. Folks, the fact of the matter is, in order to be considered a citizen of the United States in all historical contexts, including the context of the 14th Amendment, it is required that you are not only born within the borders of the United States and her territories, but also that you have no other allegiance to any other entity, any other foreign power, any other country, meaning that your parents need to have allegiances here to the United States. Now, many people point to the Wong Kim Ark case, and I'm just going to point out to you that the case Wong Kim Ark, which will be up on the vote here, the case of Wong Kim Ark is based off of the idea that Wong Kim Ark was a U.S. citizen, even though he was born to parents of Chinese lineage. Now, the thing about it is that, again, throughout history, they've all of the SCOTUS has always claimed, rightfully so, that the 14th Amendment was designed specifically for the slaves. And this is one of the cases that they're going to try and claim. And as a part of that, Justice Horace Gray, who wrote for the majority in Wong Kim Ark, stated that the amendment affirms not only the ancient and fundamental rule of citizenship by birth within a territory, but also in the allegiance and under the protection of the country, including all children here born of resident aliens. See, this is the speciality of the Wong Kim Ark case. There was a special classification for his parents because back then, at the time, his parents could not renounce their citizenship to China. They were not allowed to become naturalized citizens here in the United States, and therefore they obtained a special categorization by Congress, which was called a permanent resident alien. Because of this status is why Wong Kim Ark is considered a United States citizen. Once again, you're looking at allegiances. You're looking at allegiances. And this is the whole point. And I'm sorry, it was 1924. It's 1924 that the Native Americans became citizens of the United States by congressional edict. So, folks, all I got to say is I'm hoping that tomorrow we have at least a majority of the justices who have walked through this historical record of all of this and have gone through all of this and decided, as they should, that birthright citizenship is more than just where you were physically when you dropped out of your mother's womb. It's just very simple. And this, I am hoping, is where, and praying that this is where this is going to go. Now, what are we going to do with all of the people who have been granted U.S. citizenship already? Well, there's probably going to be an amnesty for the people who are already here and were operating under the government's misinformed decision-making. However, it is entirely possible, though, that this administration and Congress could decide, hey, no, if your parents are not naturalized citizens or in some other political status that would present them as permanent residents, then yeah, you no longer are an American citizen and you have to go back to your citizen. You go to the citizenship of your parentage. So, there you go. This one's a big one, folks. It's the top of the ninth, or the bottom of the ninth. It's time for a large hit out of the park on this. And it's not that I'm trying to make waves or anything else, but as a strict constitutionalist, I have to go and take a look at all of this and be like, hey, this really is the interpretation, the proper interpretation of that phraseology. This is beyond what legalese it gets added. Oh, because I've had that argument. Oh, they're subject to the jurisdiction because they have to follow our laws. Well, as I pointed out, there was actually a discussion about that you need more than just following our laws. You need to be fully subject to the United States. And even Thomas Jefferson, way back before the amendment was even made, Thomas Jefferson wrote to John Adams in February of 1786, and even he put it straight. Aliens are the subjects of a foreign power. We are subjects of a foreign power, meaning the people who were foreign power from England. So even back then, way back before the Constitution was even written or was even ratified, they also recognized aliens are not qualified to become citizens. Alrighty, folks, that is it for me for this evening. Do me a favor. If you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. And once you are signed up and signed in, make sure that you search up the American Perspective channel and hit that green follow button to get notified every time that I go live. Also, too, don't forget to hit those thumbs up, thumbs downs, or in the case of 3 Chevy, the thumbs sideways across all of my platforms, whether it's X, YouTube, or, of course, the aforementioned Rumble. I can't forget Facebook. We will see you tomorrow night for Whiskey Wednesday right here on American Perspective, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Have a great rest of your evening, and here's hoping that SCOTUS does the right thing tomorrow. Good night, everybody.